So one of the things we do actually at TechTrends is we host quite a number of podcasts in-house. So we produce podcasts on tech, we produce podcasts on sustainability, we produce podcasts on, a lot of things that we do in-house with, our team. And one thing we decided this day to do is, as much as we are doing the panel discussions, why not make it a podcast as well, right? So, and for these podcasts, I want us to invite, you know, three presenters, of course, who were here earlier. So, Anne, welcome on set. Then I'll welcome Ryan as well. And Alfred. Kindly join us on stage. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, for just finding time to join us for this. Let me call it a podcast, right? I've actually done a podcast before with Ryan. So many podcasts actually. He's been he's been at a studio to record a couple of podcasts. We are planning something with Alfred as well on the same. And I'm hoping to host Anne as well on a podcast, discuss about what Summer is building. But of course, we've had quite interesting conversations around AI since the first, the keynote, of course, from Anne. But my question is, and of course, I'll start from my far right, Ryan. Of course, at this point, people are describing AI as, hype, right? But from your perspective, from where you're sitting, how would you describe what AI transformation actually is? How does it look like right now for African businesses?
For enterprises, the way I see it going is a matter of, right now there might be organizations that might say, okay, we don't use AI, we don't need to use AI, we don't want to use AI. But I think we're tracking towards a future where the question would be, why are you not using AI? There would be an expectation that you are using AI to improve your workflow, improve your processes. How are you, if you're using it in a smart way, even better. So I think that's where we're headed. More of should I not, and more of why are you not actually using AI in your enterprise?
All right, interesting. Is this something you agree with, Anne as well?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I'll make reference to a time I worked with this guy.
You guys have worked together.
Yeah,
okay.
small Nairobi.
Small world, yeah? And,
Small world, as they say.
So he came up with this phrase that was saying adapt or abate, which is very relevant, honestly, when you think about where we are at in the AI space right now. We've moved from theory to practice, okay? Now, I think you alluded to this, like, we are already like in the fourth industrial revolution. And unlike other revolutions, this one is leapfrogging. It's like when you drive and you just rev, you just go shwa all at once. We are at that place. AI is going to transform, is already transforming how we do business. Okay. The question is, how do I apply it in my different use cases? For example, if I'm in the service industry, how do I apply a chatbot to help me respond to my customers faster? Right. We have one of our clients, Walmart, that is using AI to actually reduce their return. When you go buy, let's say you buy a shirt, how the use case is, I'll go take a photo of myself and I'll upload it and it'll tell me, "Peace, you're a size 10. What do you want to buy? I want to buy a shirt. What color? Blue. They'll bring all the size 10 blue shirts and I'll drag and drop." Okay, so what that does is, one, helps the business, to what Ryan has said here, business efficiencies. But then again, it reduces the return rate for them, leading to more revenue. So the transformation is here. We are already in that revolution. It is moving very fast, so we adapt or we abate.
Okay, and Alfred, actually, you gave very practical examples, actually, in your presentations. But again, how would you describe this transformation right now?
I think it's a global transformation. It's no longer a US or a China transformation. So, as I mentioned, all it takes is a very innovative company to say, okay, you are now using these 20 tools for your business and you're paying $300 per month, right? I could compress all these tools into one and you'll only need to pay $10 per month. And this is how everything will speak to each other. And that's why it's very, very important that African businesses fully understand the capabilities of these tools and how they can leverage them for their business. There's still a very huge, I'd say, underutilization or lack of knowledge in terms of the full capabilities and possibilities that these tools provide. There's also a very big opportunity in terms of, based on the expertise of your business, how do you place yourself in the AI economy and in the AI value chain to also, productize the expertise you have. So the potential is really, really tremendous, from customer delivery to brainstorming and innovation. I think if we have 5 out of 10 businesses in Kenya really understanding what Gen AI can do for their business, I think it will boost our GDP by so many counts, as opposed to how we are operating traditionally.
Yeah. All right, thanks. And of course, since you still have the mic, one of the things you've seen happening is, there's always been that missing link in AI adoption. Where do you see the knowledge gaps? Especially among African businesses, and how can they be filled? Just quickly.
I'd say the biggest knowledge gap, it starts with the mindset. So the biggest challenge is the mindset, in terms of most businesses think, AI is here to replace us, AI is here to replace our people, and that creates this setting of, now they're not investing time to really now upskill themselves and test out these tools and really adopt them. And it's just the general, digital maturity in different organizations, and knowing where you are and knowing how AI can now come in to take you to the next level or sharpen the highest level that you might be in. So I'd say there's a big knowledge gap in terms of workflow optimization. And this has been done very well by the very large organizations that have change management teams that look at, okay, we are introducing this new tool in the enterprise. So how do we make it very seamless, such that the business does not suffer so much as we're moving from tool 1 to tool 2? So they already have really documented most of their processes. So it becomes very easy to really spot in and know the areas where you can really apply AI. But small organizations, depending on how they've structured themselves, have not really done that step. So they experience a bit of challenges when it comes to really scaling the adoption of the business. So I would say the knowledge gap is not on the technological side. The knowledge gap is knowing how do you merge your business objectives to now these innovative tools and services to take your business further to the next point. Because most of the time, the businesses that succeed, and studies and reports have shown this, are the ones that, how do you leverage the least technology, to get the best impact? So you might have a business that has, all the tools, they're paying $1,000, $20,000 for these tools. But if you look at the ROI that they're getting, might be really, really less compared to, a small or a medium organization that is using the least technology, but in a very powerful way. So it's just on the capabilities and merging the business and technology needs.
Right, and I'm happy you mentioned about ROI, because, many SMEs actually right now in Africa, they view AI as very, very expensive. Maybe expensive why we've really left it to the large corporates. Maybe just Ryan, from where you are sitting, how do we convince them that actually enterprise mobility, and you actually made a very interesting, presentation earlier. How do you convince them actually that enterprise mobility and AI integration is not just...
Yeah, great. That's a really good question. But before we get there, I think he's made a brilliant. I see it even as they're looking at the cost of implementing. Before you even get to the cost element, I think of it 3 ways. We tend to put the technology first, then the people and the processes come after. That's where it goes wrong. So from a people perspective, how do they understand AI? How do they receive AI? Is it a fear factor? It's going to make my work worse, more difficult. Then what are our processes? What do we really need AI for? Because we don't have to put AI into every single thing. Yeah. Now, I'll give you context of why I'm saying this. We're with very strict data security rules. So we don't use the same AI platforms that you exposed to. We have our own internal AI platform to protect, company data. But in introducing that, there's a lot of initiative and just how to use AI responsibly and in a smart way for their work. Then we rolled out to all staff. Yeah. Now that cultural change means that a lot of people, it's called Gauss. A lot of people are using it every day, from simple tasks like simple translation. We're a Korean company, so we do get emails sometimes in Korean. Simple translation, getting ideas, concepts, and they're using it on a day-to-day basis. Before that, they'd probably not even chat. So that mental, cultural change, that behavioral needs to be there first when you're looking at the organizational. The next bit is the future we're going towards is consolidating all these tools into one package. So I already have some experience with that from the personal side. So for me, I do go onto the subscription model before on certain platforms, but there's so many platforms now, and you want to try out and test all of them. So there is one platform that has consolidated all these models into one, and you pay one subscription fee for it. So when I go onto it and I prompt, I can change from different versions of GPT. I can change to Anthropic, I can change to Gemini, I can change to DeepSeek, and then compare and contrast. Yeah, so that model is already existing for the consumer end. Yeah, of course it costs money and it's quite expensive now, especially if you go on a quarterly package. But now, going forward, that future he's talking about, I think, is 100%. Now, for enterprises, AI already does not have to be a costly thing in terms of the fear aspect of it, because just as he had presented, a lot of these platforms are already open source, free for now, before the paywalls come in. Yeah. Second of all, if we are looking at AI and every single person who's working in a company, whether you're having BYOD devices, bring your own device, corporate owned, personal, you can already actually experience AI. It's just that we're not doing enough of it on an individual level. So the main thing with enterprises, number one, before they start spending money, is to do a deep dive and understand, why do we want AI? How do we want to incorporate it? And in terms of our people, from all levels, yeah, how do we want them to understand how it works in context of our processes and even in context of their own general use? Then we can start exploring the investment bit, because we can have $50,000 to spend on a platform which we implement that doesn't get used for what it's supposed to be used, because someone fears that it's going to make them look worse at their job because it's doing better. So that's the way I would approach it: people, process, and then the technology.
Right, yeah. Interesting. So, as much as we're talking about now doing that and now deploying these AI solutions, I think now, please, just one thing that comes into question is, the whole idea of, ethics, high quality data, basically how do we ensure now, and since actually you work with a lot of these very large, AI training data at scale, how do we now ensure that this high quality, ethical data for enterprises is really important when even we think about deploying these AI solutions?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think we all agree that AI is built on data, okay? And it's like a conveyor belt: garbage in, garbage out, good data in, good data out. That you can get data, like I can get tons and tons and tons of data. The question is, one, what is the quality of the data? Okay, if it's a CV model, is it blurry images? There's only so much that I can do with that, okay? But now brings in the element of ethics. I think for anyone working on any tool or any model, the first question that you need to be sure you've answered is, what's the use case? Okay. At the end of the day, this model that I'm training, what do I want it to do? If you cannot answer that question and you're happy with what the use case is, then there's a question on ethics. Okay. Now, like I said in my presentation, even your own clothes come with a warning sign. Okay. Today, AI needs to be regulated because AI can do anything. All right. The only way to make sure that AI is working for good is to make sure that it's regulated. Okay. So how do we go about regulations? The governments have to be involved. The legislative arm has to be involved. Literally, the society has to be involved. Every single person has to be involved to define. So in our context today, what is ethical? in your context, what is ethical? Okay, fine. Then you have a model in your context that may not be ethical. What does that mean for deploying that model in my community? Okay, so I think the element of ethics, I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. I mean, we've talked about, as is mentioned, ROI, perfect. We've talked about the many things it can do, perfect. We've talked about deployment, perfect. It's going to make me efficient. That's true. How much are we talking about the ethics? I think it's a topic that needs to find itself among the top 3.
And maybe Alfred, we've seen with Gen AI, we've seen a lot of actually corporates, a lot of organizations experimenting but not scaling, right? Why is this the case?
Majorly because they don't have a long-term strategy or plan or roadmap. They're not approaching it from an intentional sort of standpoint. Most of them are just approaching it because it is the hype currently and it is what our competitor is doing. So for us to stay relevant to our end customers, let's also try it out. But the organizations that are getting it right are now approaching it from a long-term perspective. So yes, we've tested these tools. We've seen this is where it's really good at, and this is where it's failing in terms of context, data, and so on, and research. So how do we invest intentionally so that we can also start having our own technology that is hyper-personalized and hyper-contextualized to the end customers that we are serving. So by now, I hope there are telecommunications banks that are building small language models as opposed to starting with large language models, because large language models are very, very expensive to implement end to end, unless you are really taking a small context and changing it. So the approach needs to change to, this is our vertical as a provider. We are in entertainment. How can you collect the context of entertainment for the particular segment you're building, and how do we create the smartest system that now sort of virtualizes or creates a digital twin replica of this particular segment, and then we scale from that. So it's this small intentional investments that, yes, you're subscribing and you're buying the tool, but yes, you have an R&D team, but what is the R&D team doing in terms of generative AI? What research are they doing in terms of how do you specifically apply AI in your segment? So it is not only using the tools, but investing short-term and long-term, such that we want to have our own version of these tools in 3 or 4 years, or even in 2 years.
All right, listen, before now I open up the floor, for questions. Ryan, maybe I'll start with you. Is it a question of trust? Of course, trust, skills, infrastructure, or even cost? That's what's stopping users from doing this.
I think it's just a matter of, there's a lot of demystification that needs to happen on so many levels, because if it's a matter of cost, there's just, I think locally there's an assumption that all new technology has to be expensive or is expensive or inaccessible. That's one. So we need to demystify that one or the other. Number two, the trust element, I think, is something that if we're talking about from an organizational perspective, if it is HR, if it's a thought leaders within organizations, that is something that they can actually take a position as to champion a change in that mentality. Then I could also give you I would like to speak from the context of what we're doing internally, and what he just said about building our own models. So we as an organization, actually, even now as we speak, we're running an internal competition on ideas of how we can improve our current processes through AI. Now the best ideas will pass through, and they will help us develop the tools for that. So one of the ideas that was floated was, like product managers spend a lot of time trying to pick out market insights left, right, and center on competition, the model comparisons, spec comparisons. We have someone on the finance side who does macroeconomics, and it takes him like 2-3 hours to pick out the news. So what if we could actually develop a tool that does a data crawl, creates a full dashboard, gives us market insights, where we're not spending every single quarter or biannually on a large project for data research, but we're getting information on a week-on-week basis, which gives us the ability to respond to the market faster. Now, by creating those initiatives as an organization, as an example, you start to build that understanding and that trust within your internal community. Yeah, so people begin to understand this is something that could actually change the way we do things. Yeah, so I think, you know, the demystification is up to us. Where I sit as Ryan, where I sit, where you sit as Anne. So it's all about being a champion of getting people to understand what this whole transformation is about and how it can help you.
All right, Anne, anything to add to that?
In addition to the demystifying thing, is just adding, I think any person, whatever industry you're in, you need to start on adopting AI. Just start small. Okay, just pick out the one process that you think you need to optimize and run with that one. Okay, see how you see the ROI, see the benefits of that, then pick another bigger one. And fun fact is that we're also running an innovation nation led by that lady right there.
Great.
And you realize that even big tech organizations are actually facing more or less the same challenges in adoption and stuff, and are also driving towards innovation. So if that is happening, then I think every single person in your own small area, your own small segment needs to start. Just start. Just pick one and optimize it.
All right, thank you so much. So 3 questions only.
Hello, good morning. My question would be to any of you. What is the position of intellectual property within the AI space, especially for the already rolled out tools that are just getting improved? Oh, my name is Doris. I'm from Higher Education Loans Board.
I think we can take all 3, or? Yeah.
Good afternoon, panelists. My name is Alex Owiti. My question is, we've not discussed about infrastructure. I would just love to hear what you guys think about our infrastructure as Africa. Is our infrastructure ready for AI? Then can we build our own ecosystem? Because Africa is known to be consumers rather than creators. So where our gap is that we keep on consuming and complaining that the kind of data sets that are being used are not relevant to the models that we have. But the question is, why can't we build our own ecosystem?
Thank you. The last one.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. I just have one question for Ryan. You mentioned earlier about integration of AI into our appliances like, for example, washing machines and fridges and all that. I was just interested. What angle exactly are you approaching the AI to be operating in our televisions or our washing machines or such things? Thank you.
I'll want to take the one on two of them, infrastructure and ecosystem. So in terms of infrastructure, I look at it from 2 ways. So do we have the capabilities to deploy the infrastructure to build AI? And then number 2, to deploy and use AI. I think the answer is yes. Have we invested in the right scale of infrastructure such that we can compete globally and bring this hyperscalers and AI data centers locally? I think no. We are not really there yet. So as much as we have all this green energy and electricity and water, which right now are some of the ingredients that are really being consumed when it comes to AI data centers, yes, there are players that are investing ahead and placing the right data center so that they bring the global 3 or the global 4 AI companies or cloud companies to have local infrastructure within the country so that you get faster response and also cheaper cloud compute. So I think it's already happening. Infrastructure right now, it's only a matter of cost in terms of can you afford the cost of, training your own system, whether it is a small language system or it's a small LLM language system. The mistake that most businesses make is you want to start by building an LLM, which is always the wrong approach, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. We already have so many open source versions of LLMs. Take it, focus on the context that you need to switch or improve on, and get the right infrastructure. So right now from your laptop, you can access cloud infrastructure from all over the world. So we don't need to think that, yes, I must have the infrastructure in the country for me to innovate or for me to deploy. No, let us just deploy and build. But alongside that, let us also look at how do we influence the government and the big players to incentivize the large corporations that are channeling most of the AI traffic to now create a conducive environment so that in the next 5 years, we have an open AI data center here in the country that is serving the entire world. That's trillions of dollars that will be flowing through our economy that will create so much value. So it is that long-term thinking. What are we doing now to really affect that? In terms of building our own AI ecosystem, I will blow my own horn here and say that I've been building the ecosystem from 2017, way before ChatGPT or way before AI really became mainstream as much as it is right now. So building the ecosystem from number one, a perspective of talent, so capacity building, hackathons, the internal competitions, doing trainings for developers to create these AI technologies. The second thing is businesses. So we have many local startups. I highlighted some of them here. And we try to position these startups to a stage like this where you are able to talk to them, they're able to showcase to you your solution so that you understand, yes, there are local companies that are building AI solutions and you need to take up their services so that they also get to improve. And we're also able to, increase the how we are perceived globally as a country that is playing in the AI industry. So we are not only consuming, yes, we are also building, and we feature that in our AI Kenya Breakfast Summits and also on our YouTube page. And lastly, research and discourse. So I think the ecosystem is there. It's very small. It's just us looking how do we get into these ecosystems and how do we scale and amplify. So we have companies that are selling all the compute you need to build AI. We have companies like Sama that are now playing a role in providing you the annotated data that you would need to train your systems. We have so many software development companies that are also playing the role. So the ecosystem is really there. You just need to look for it and plug into it.
Yeah, I love you say that because, one thing I know for sure is like, we've been using AI for so many years, but until it became mainstream just the other day, is then realized, okay, it's actually AI. But actually, when you look back, we've been using AI for so many years, just that we didn't know it was AI, right? Yes. There's a question.
I think I'll take your question around. I think it was about data and all that. I think the one simple answer is regulations. Okay, the one way that we can make sure that the current systems are safe. I'm assuming you are asking that because of the data that help us to handle. All right, how we make sure that the data is safe, the systems are safe, goes down to regulation. Okay, that has to be gotten right. But then over and above that comes the question of skill. I just mentioned in our presentation that unfortunately for us, we were ranked as only having 44% of our youth skilled enough to leverage and use AI as AI should be used. And I appreciate what AI Kenya is doing to help equip the skills. I think we do need to be intentional about building that skill from a very young age. Among our youths, among our children, among our communities. Only then will we be able to fully optimize the benefits that AI would come with. When I talk about regulation, it's not just regulating the tool itself, but it's regulating the entire process. For example, if I'm using DeepSeek to create content, for example, what regulations are guiding what I can use it for and what I cannot use it for? In the sense of if I use DeepSeek's data to go and train model and piece, then I've gone against regulations. Does that make sense? And so Whilst we have the EU one that is very referenced to a lot, does that apply to our context? I don't think 100% of it. Hence, calling on all regulators or policymakers to actually review that and see what works for our context. Okay, because down the line, what's going to happen is there's going to be someone local that will go and build an LLM with all our 1,000 languages. Okay, we need to make sure that this person is well protected to make sure that the previous models do not use this person's data or work or model to actually leverage and or rather to actually earn the profits, so to say, from this person's work. How do we protect this person? We need to have proper regulations about it. What can you use this one for? What are the policies? Like just a guideline of what you can use. If you've gone to ChatGPT and you log into the one that you log in and it's your account plus the free one, they both do very different things. And they do both different things because the regulation is very well defined. Okay, I can create images in one that I have an account for, but it is the free version.
Right. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, you want to add something before?
Yes, just for the intellectual property, there's a value chain from when you innovate the product and the data that you use to train the product. You have to use a data partner that licenses this data to you. So same way that OpenAI, their core business is not looking for training data. Their core business is looking at how do we create models that can learn as much as possible from the data we get and emulate human capabilities or even go beyond to the next partner. So there are licensing laws that allow and licensing agreements that now help OpenAI to protect themselves, such that if I'm outsourcing data from Nick, I hope that Nick has to tell me, okay, I own this data, or these are the people that own this data, and I am giving you a commercial license to this data, and you can use it to train your systems. In case of anything else, we'll be liable. And then Nick trickles it down to the person who gave him the data, or the organizations that gave him the data. So there's that entire value chain. And there are so many, I think, cases in courts of, writers, artists that are now suing these platforms to say, okay, you need to take down this because it's breaching our intellectual property rights. And most of them, they go and take it down because maybe the right, model was not followed, or the right model was followed. So it's just a case of misinformation. But you need to look at the disclosures from the platforms you're using in terms of, do they let you own the whatever you generate from their platform, and can you use it for commercial purposes? Of course, most people are using it for commercial purposes, and the providers, either they restrict you from either using it by either putting a watermark or telling you can't use it, or once you pay this subscription, then you are able to use it. And for Africa, we really need to be careful and look at how do we get more of our context and more of our culture out there. There's a lot of conversation that goes around, the big tech are misusing our data, the big tech are not representing us. Someone goes online, they Google, okay, an African doctor or a doctor in Africa treating children, and then they get an image or a photo of a white man treating children. The reality is online, most of the pictures you have online are of, white people doing those things. So it comes down to the other question, how much of our culture are we documenting? The other day we did a research study to look at across the different platforms that generate images, how well do they understand traditional culture from traditional Kenyan culture. So I'm looking at Maasai, I'm looking at Luo, Kamba, Luya. I think we did about 10 or 5 tribes. It's on our website. And what we found out that when you're generating the AI imagery from waist upwards, or the full body image, because you have a lot of Maasai culture documented online, the rest of the tribes are not well documented online because of course tourism and all these things. You generate a Luya or Luo image and you still find the man or woman, they have Maasai beadwork or the Maasai shukas in the images that it's generating. That's a clear indicator to us that we need to influence that value chain of the companies that are providing data to these LLM platforms and give them data. So if you're really stringent and we keep having that mindset of, oh, our data is being misused and so on, but on the other side, we also need to, we have done a bad job of representing our culture and our context and our stories online. So this is the right opportunity to really do that. But there are proper regulations, there are proper, steps to undertake in case you come across a copyright case. So that should not stop you from using the tools commercially.
Okay, so in short, you're not documenting our life enough.
We are not documenting enough, or we are not documenting the right context. So if the stories that we used to hear when you were kids of traditional the Luanda Mageres and so on, those needs to be movies, comics, and all these things. They need to be very common, such that we don't get to a point where we are saying, why do we have Luanda Magere story on an open AI system? This is now misusing our culture. But the same case, when you go to the system and ask it, okay, tell me a story of a Kenyan superhero. So what will the system say if you've not shared Luanda Magere stories?
All right, thank you so much, Alfred. So maybe Ryan, there's a question for you from my friend.
Yes, definitely. So he asked about how we've incorporated AI into our other ecosystem of devices. So for us, actually, it is truly an ecosystem. So we've designed our smart devices to be able to communicate with each other, first of all. So from the smartphones to the TVs to the fridges and the washing machines. So through our Smart Things Hub, you're able to connect your devices seamlessly between them. So if you wanted to be here and you're connected to your washing machine and you forgot to start the load, you can just immediately prompt it from here. If you're talking about the fridges, we have fridges with vision-based sensors that are able to detect the inventory in your fridge. So if you're running out of milk, sends you a notification. You're running out of milk, you might want to buy some. And then if, for example, the watch that I'm wearing, connected to my smart TV, it's got very advanced sensors. It's able to detect when I've fallen asleep. I know many of us, I think mostly men, we fall asleep watching TV on the couch. You wake up, the TV is running. So it's able to detect when you've fallen asleep, and it's able to give an instruction to the TV to switch off. So that's how we've integrated that. And I wanted to just add one more thing for Alex. In terms of infrastructure, I would say, I think Africa, in terms of infrastructure, technological infrastructure, we're positioned on the up. For me, the way I see it, and it might seem a bit biased from a product perspective, but I really believe this is the infrastructure, for many of us, because at the end of the day, you don't have to get on a machine to start using AI. It's actually right there in your pocket, and I was recently in, of all places, Sudan last week. What would you say are the phones they're using in Sudan? Feature phones? War Sudan, Port Sudan was in war previously. They're actually using smartphones. It's such a vibrant smartphone market, we could not even believe it. Anything from the $50 smartphones all the way to the S25 Ultras. So in terms of infrastructure in Africa, it's more about the connect. I think for the AI experience and getting started with AI, it's connected devices. So if people have this access to connected devices, which they do, in a country like Sudan, where the operators are getting inundated with new registrations post-war for SIM cards, who's to say that they cannot start using AI for whatever reason? They can, because they're using the smartphone more than they're using a TV. They're using a smartphone where there's no power most of the time. There's a lot of power rationing and load shedding. Now, that being the case, it falls upon infrastructure, it falls upon the operators. How accessible is their data in terms of the cost? I know we complain a lot about data costs. So how can operators, for example, make their data plans more enticing, make their data plans a lot more accessible from a price point and a value point as well? Then that continues to bolster up this ecosystem that becomes the infrastructure for it, and everything else falls into place.
Right. Thank you so much, Ryan. So our time is up. So I just have one question. I want you to give each closing remarks and maybe anything you think you might have forgotten. So maybe Alfred, let me start with you. Any closing remarks?
My closing remarks would be on AI literacy and understanding AI capabilities. If you don't fully understand how you can utilize these tools, the wide sort of range of tools that are available and how you can use them in the smart way, please take the step of upskilling, take the step of making sure that across your organization, you're speaking the same language in terms of AI confidence. So please sign up for a monthly masterclass. Just go to www.kenya.ai and click on the pop-up, and then you'll be able to attend and get upskilled. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Alfred. Anne?
I think mine would just be a call out to intentionality about making sure that everybody is included, because AI should work for all of us. It shouldn't work for just a segment of people. It should work for everyone. So you're calling on everybody that is building whatever model to make sure that it's very inclusive, has ethical data, that it benefits and solves a lot of our current problems.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to echo also what Anne has been saying, I think for me, my closing remark would be for each one of us to sort of become an AI explorer. Now, by that I mean, like even for myself, I'm not an AI expert. I don't think anyone will ever become an AI expert per se, but I'm trying to figure out to learn a bit more about prompting, right? So I can make better use of AI. Yeah, so that's a skill. And then one more thing is, because I think you mentioned the humans in the loop. We're still all human. So as enterprises, society assimilates more of AI, there's still going to be demand for human skills. So even if you're in the workplace right now, I wouldn't fear too much about AI, because there will be demand for analytical skills, creative thinking, empathy. All those other softer skills are still going to be very important, because as organizations pick in AI to fix and improve things, they will still need people who have human qualities to work, because human qualities actually unlock a lot more in terms of results and potential. Yeah, so that would be my closing remarks. It's not all gloom and doom. Yeah.
Thank you very much, to my fellow. Please, let's, of course, I know we didn't have enough time, but I'm going to try and make sure we host each of you on a separate podcast. We'll plan for that with your team. We'll see if we can host you separately to just advance this conversation, talk further about what you're building around that space as well. I know we have so many questions around, especially, ethical data. You spoke about it, ethical AI and all of these things that we're talking about here. So thank you so much for just, finding time to join us on this podcast, stroke panel.